Hey guys, Ben here, helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. Now, 2020 is finally over, thank God. But now that it's over, we actually have some data about the last year. And the average US credit score has actually increased in 2020. And while in most years that wouldn't be a huge storyline, after all, the average credit score has increased 9 out of the last 10 years here in the United States, ever since 2008 pretty much ruined everything for us. But what is surprising is how much of a credit score increase we saw last year. Because normally over the last handful of years, the credit score has increased, but it's only increased by about 1 or 2 points on average. But last year we saw a big spike in the credit score. It actually went up by 8 points. The average credit score in the United States went from a 703 in 2019 to a 711 in 2020. So what's surprising is the increase is roughly 4 times larger than what we've been averaging for the last decade or so. But also because 2020 was kind of a crappy year financially for pretty much everybody. I mean, yes, we did have a couple of different stimulus packages roll out, but let's be real, those stimulus packages were probably pretty small when compared to the amount of money that a lot of people lost due to the government shutdowns. So how is it possible then, during a terrible financial crisis, that credit scores actually go up? What was going on last year? Now, it is true that some of the lenders and banks were willing to work with people during the financial crisis. You could defer or suspend payments on some items. And so yes, there was a lower overall rate of delinquency last year, and that's partly due to these additional programs. But I don't think those programs really capture why our credit scores increased so dramatically, because a lot of those programs are already over, and so you would have had to make up and pay a lot of that stuff that you had put on hold. So why was our credit score going up so dramatically? I think by far and away the biggest reason that credit scores increased last year was because of our consumer spending suddenly fell off a cliff. In the height of the pandemic back in April, the average US consumer was spending almost 20% less than they were a year ago. That's a huge difference. And fast forward a few months later, as recently as October, the overall consumer spending is still down 1.6% as opposed to what it was a year ago. And that reduction in spending can have a very large, profound impact on one's financial situation and thus their credit score. Back in 2019, the average American had almost $6,200 worth of credit card debt. And at the high rates of interest that those credit cards charge, that can be soul-crushing amounts of debt. Fast forward to 2020, and the average debt on credit cards is only roughly $5,300, or about a 14% reduction in overall credit card debt. Now, with the average American still owing $5,300, that's still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but a 15% drop in only a few short months, that's a big deal, guys. And I think it was that drop in overall debt that people are carrying that was able to boost the national average credit score. Look guys, if you've watched my YouTube channel for a while, you know I'm a huge advocate of reducing your overall credit utilization rate. That's number one, what I harp on. Yes, I realize that paying your bills on time is a larger percent of your overall credit score, but honestly, not by much. If you pay your credit bills on time, that makes up 35% of your overall credit score. But your credit utilization rate makes up 30% of your credit score. It's like neck and neck with paying your bills on time. And your credit utilization is basically a ratio of how much credit you have available versus how much of it are you actually using. The less credit that you are actually using, the better. So with consumers tightening their belt during the pandemic and spending a lot less money and reducing their overall credit card debt, that caused a sudden spike in their credit scores. People like to talk about the new normal as far as what the next few years are going to have in store for us. But what if we just simply made spending less money into the new normal? What if we just continued to cut back on all of our consumer spending? The motto of this channel is to earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. So what if the new normal for us was just to spend less money? Now, I don't know about you guys, but in 2020 I was frustrated, but mostly because I just couldn't go out and socialize and interact with all of my friends. But even when you account for those additional entertainment expenses, eating out with friends, going to shows and things like that, even after accounting for that, I spent dramatically less money in 2020 than I did in years past. And I didn't even realize that I was spending money until I started looking at some of my credit card statements and seeing just how cheap I was living. So if US consumers were able to eliminate roughly 14% of their credit card debt in only 8 short months between April and December of last year, what if we just continued down that path and made it our mission in 2021 to eradicate our consumer debt? At that rate, it would only take us a few short years to be completely credit card debt free. In America, we like to talk about freedoms, the freedom to do this or the freedom to do that, but there's nothing more liberating than to be financially free. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, leave a comment down below, give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and as always, I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.